In this video, I wanted to discuss how I was able to take first place at Muscle Beach International Classic for men's ultra tall men's physique. Um, this is actually something that I was able to achieve after competing for about 13 years. So it didn't happen overnight. And it's something that, it takes a lot of practice and dedication and just really learning your body. I started competing in natural bodybuilding and eventually men's physique at the age of 21 while I was in college. Before that, I was a wrestler in high school, and I felt like wrestling really taught me a lot about discipline, taught me a lot about, grit and just kind of getting through, situations. When you're a wrestler, you can't blame anyone for your performance. It's just you and that other opponent, and the best wrestler is the one that's going to come out on top. Mind you, there are situations where you might just get caught in a bad move, and then you end up getting pinned, and that did happen to me a few times. But overall, it teaches you, I guess, resilience and the fact that you're responsible. I took what I learned from wrestling and I applied it, into, I guess, natural bodybuilding and men's physique. When I would work out, I would always kind of say, like, oh, this is easy compared to wrestling. Like I was, you know, doing 2 to 3 hour, workouts as a wrestler, running 5 miles, coming back, doing all this conditioning and training. And there was times where you're just, completely exhausted. And honestly, you're just getting beat up because you're in there with someone your own size, wrestling with all of your strength, and it's exhausting. So as I started competing, I started to do a lot of research on nutrition. I knew that that was going to be key to my success. And I started to do a lot of research on how to be effective with my workouts in order to look the best. So there's a couple things that I'll go over. I'll go over, my nutrition. I'll go over my resistance training, my cardio, and then just about the amount of time it takes in order to get ready for a competition, as well as the type of mindset I believe you need to have to be extremely successful. So, as I competed, I would, diet myself down. And when I started competing, I would eat every, 2.5, 3 hours. I would eat extremely lean proteins and, only fibrous vegetables and very few starchy carbs. Um, I would do a lot of cardio and I would really lift weights like heavy, but I think sometimes I didn't always understand, I guess, how to stimulate the muscle and let it recover. Maybe I overtrained just a little bit. And this is very common for people when they first start working out and they want to get in shape. The mentality of like, no one's going to outwork me. I'm just going to keep working. But there is a balance because your muscles have to recover. And also your muscles have to mature as well. If you're a little bit younger, your testosterone levels and your hormone levels might not be at their peak until you're about 25 or 30 years old, within that age range. So your body's still, maturing and adjusting. And I started competing when I was 21. My first competition, I weighed about 171 pounds, 175 pounds, and I'm 6'1", so that's pretty light for someone with my frame. Um, I was ripped though; you could see my abs, and that was like a very exciting time for me because even as a wrestler, I never really saw my abs that much. Um, as a wrestler, they would always bump me up, even though I was 185 in high school. They would bump me up to wrestle varsity 215s. Um, Again, I would do tons of cardio, maybe like two 45-minute sessions of cardio, doing stairs and something else sometimes. Sometimes I'll just do stairs. So it's almost like, an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of stairs. And that's a day. And then I would work out for like 45 minutes. I always try to cap my workouts at 45 because, I did read that Arnold would always do that and that there's a hormonal reason for it. Once you start pushing your body after about 45 minutes, starts to release more stress hormones and your testosterone levels start to decrease. So I wouldn't try to lift, for hours on end, but I would try to balance it with a lot of cardio, and I would eat really, really lean and strict. Um, Fix my mustache here. And then eventually I would take some breaks. I would take a year off, and then I would go ahead and bulk up. I would try to eat, a bit more calories, get some more starches in there. Again, lift heavy, cut my cardio. And, I might be able to come back the next year with an extra 5 to 10 pounds of muscle on me when I competed. But it was a very, very slow process. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that I started at like 175. Next year, I maybe take some time off, then I would compete again, and maybe I'd be 180, 185. Again, I would take a little bit of time off. I would try to bulk up again, come back after a year, and maybe I was at like 190, 195. And I just kept doing that on and off for about 13 years until eventually I stepped on stage at Muscle Beach. Again, after taking a little hiatus, giving my body some time to kind of adjust, and stepped on stage at about 200 pounds. And I felt like my body matured. I had a really good symmetry, and I was able to take first place. And I was only doing about maybe 45 minutes of cardio a day. Instead of doing the 2 sessions, I would just do one, 45-minute session of cardio. I would work out at my studio. One of the trainers would help me with some lifts in his smaller group training, and I would take some classes, with my inside my business, because we did group training for fitness. I would go ahead and work out, with them every once in a while, but I would use it a little bit more like a cardio session. Again, like some of my heavier lifts were mostly in the small group session. But I also trained with the mentality of stimulating the muscle, not annihilating it. So, there's the saying that like your body needs to recover, and your goal should be to stimulate the muscle tissue to grow, but not to annihilate it to the point where, you're not going to be able to use those muscles for like a whole week. So I changed the way I train, still intense, but a bit more focused on being as effective as possible. And you know what? My diet also changed a little bit too. I started intermittent fasting. I found that just worked a lot better for my lifestyle. I would work out primarily in the morning, and I didn't like having food in my stomach if I was, teaching classes and jumping around, or if I was going through my own workout. So I liked to start my day kind of on a fasted stomach, obviously drinking plenty of water. I would have my BCAAs, and I would take, it's called like a vasodilator. I liked vasodilators like Plasma Pump, which is a supplement that is sold at the camp transformation centers. Because I didn't like taking too much caffeine, but I wanted to have, those BCAAs and improved blood circulation to make sure my body was in a healthy state. When it came to the timing wise, I would say I typically liked to give myself like 6 months to maybe 4 months on the shorter end of prep when I'm getting ready for a competition. And some of that depends on my current conditioning. So if I'm already like fairly active and lean and I'm not coming right off of a bulk, then I don't need as much time to get myself ready for the competition. I also would try to ease myself into it instead of just beat myself up and try to force myself to lose weight as quickly as possible. If you end up doing that, trying to lose weight extremely fast, you oftentimes will lose some of that hard-earned muscle that you just built up. And if you lose that muscle, your metabolism slows down because muscle burns calories, and you won't have the same defined look as you could because muscle is going to give you shape and it's going to give you definition. Um, so in the last year that I competed in 2019, I took a slightly different approach. My body was mature. I already was being active, so I kind of was able to ease into my prep. I believe I only gave myself about 4 months. But again, I was already in good shape, so it was just trying to like stay consistent, dial it in, and listen to my body. Um, Besides doing the intermittent fasting as something different for my cardio, I still kept my protein intake high. I moderated my carbohydrates. I didn't eliminate them. I do feel like your body needs carbohydrates. You just don't want to eat too much because they can be stored as fat if they're not utilized. And I did keep some healthy fats in my diet as well. My macros for the most part, and again, this kind of fluctuates, but if you want to know ballpark how I kind of calculated my macros, it was basically a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass or whatever weight I wanted to achieve when I was on stage. And then I would basically half that for most of my days when I was trying to get ready for a competition. So I would probably eat about 100, maybe 150 grams of carbohydrates. And then my fat would basically be half of whatever my carbs were. So maybe about 50, sometimes, 25, depending on where I was at and how I felt. I would give myself a refeed day. And a refeed day is basically a day or portion of a day where you allow yourself to consume more calories and carbohydrates than you're used to. And this kind of helps your body from going into a catabolic state, or how some people say starvation mode. And it also helps you recover from your workouts. Now, I found that the best day for me was normally like a Friday night or a Saturday night. Those were typically days when myself and my wife would be trying to either relax, or maybe I'd take her out to like a nice dinner, and I didn't want to feel like I was on prep during that time. Um, Again, you would feel a little bit of water bloat after refeeding because carbohydrates also hydrate your body. And I always try to tell my clients that if they decide to use this technique, it would be a good idea to give yourself a day after your refeed to try to get things back to normal, because it's not that comfortable to try to work out when you're carrying around a lot of excess water. So on Sunday, that was typically like my medium carb day, and that's probably where I would eat closer to like 150 grams of carbs. And sometimes it would just be me finishing like the brown rice pasta or whatever I made for my refeed day. Again, I would do this for about 4 months. I would be lifting weights for about 45 minutes. And I would do that probably about, 2 days on, 1 day off, more or less. Sometimes I'd go a little bit longer, but I always did try to give myself a little bit of a rest day. However, that rest day could be an active rest day, which means I typically didn't have a day where I did no physical activity. It would just be, physical activity at a much lower level of intensity. Maybe it's a hike. Maybe I'll take one of my classes, at my fitness studio. But again, I wouldn't necessarily try to challenge myself extremely. I would just try to move my body so that way blood's getting into the tissues and helping that recovery process. So I do think that you could work out every day. I just think the intensity level of that workout is going to change based off of if you need to recover or based off of if you're really trying to stimulate the muscle tissue. Um, And then cardio, when I would do my cardio, I would typically do something that would vary itself up and down in intensity. So if I was on the stairs or a bike or something, I would select a mode where I would do a little bit of high intensity cardio, and then it would kind of slow back down. Or I would go on a walk or a hike where there's hills, and so that way I'm going through different, levels of intensity as I'm going through my walk or hike as well. Um, One thing they don't always tell you about when you're doing contest prep or about to compete, you do have to get spray tanned. No, it's not something that we like to do. It's just if we're going to be on stage comparing ourselves to everyone else and having the judges judge us, it makes it easier to see who's conditioned and who's not if we're all kind of like the same or similar tones of bronze. And beyond that, if you're fair skinned like I am, the lighter your skin, the more kind of glare and less definition you're going to see when you're on stage. So, spray painting yourself so that you're a bit more darker will allow more of your definition and shape to be seen. The final day of the contest prep, I typically the first week or last week, my bad, of the contest prep, I'll typically increase my water. So I might do up to 2 gallons of water every day. And what I'm trying to do there is get my body in a state where it's used to having an abundance of water. And then it's going to release hormones, diuretic hormones, telling my body to release that water because there's so much of it. And then on the day of the competition, I typically will cut back my water. Um, Maybe not completely. I have tried doing that before where I cut it back 100%. And I did that like a couple days before my competition. And honestly, it just made me extremely dehydrated. My muscles were flat. My lips were cracking. And I don't think it really made me, I don't think it really helped me. I think it kind of hurt me. So now when I was in my last competition, understanding that I just wanted to manipulate the water, I didn't want to completely dehydrate myself. So I just did a very mild kind of scaling back on my water. And I didn't drink water the day of the competition because I didn't want to have to use the restroom while I'm backstage waiting. And there's a chance that I might, accidentally get, some water on me as I'm going back and forth to the restroom, which would ruin my tan. So, but I knew I needed to get that water I had in my body into my muscles as much as possible. So I had my wife get me a big churro and a big pretzel. And the churro gave me sugar that I needed to kind of fill out and to look my best. And the pretzel had salt, and your body needs salt, and it's a great electrolyte, so you don't cramp up. Obviously, you don't want to be eating a lot of like potato chips and stuff like that all the time because you're going to get a lot of excess sodium from all the preservatives and emulsifiers. But at this point, right before my competition, I did want, to have a good amount of sodium in my body. So I ate that. I didn't do a lot of workouts while I was waiting backstage. A lot of the competitors were younger than me by about 10 years. And they had that youthful energy and they were, working out and puffing up their chests. And I knew it was going to be a little while. So I wasn't going to try to work out for 2 hours backstage right before I stepped up. So instead, I just kind of stayed calm. I ate my churro, I ate my pretzel, I chatted with a couple people. And then while I was in line backstage, I just did a couple push ups and went on stage. And I ended up taking first place at Muscle Beach. I also did end up working with Jason Ellis, who is an amazing fitness photographer. He does a lot of, the top bodybuilders and fitness models. And he was actually able to do a photo shoot with me. And this is the conditioning, hopefully you guys can see it, that I was able to get in. And this magazine right here is actually Inland Empire's Best of 2024, where I was voted best personal trainer, and my fitness studio was voted best fitness studio in the Inland Empire by Inland Empire magazine. I no longer own the fitness studio. My previous video does talk about, the business experiences that I have. And of course, if you want to hire me on as a business consultant, please go ahead and message me, and I'd love to go over all of the experiences and skills that I've obtained over the years. If you want me to coach you on nutrition and fitness, feel free to go ahead and message me as well. I don't work with a lot of individuals when it comes to coaching them, but the ones that I do work with, I try to give them the best possible service I can, and obviously make sure I'm helping them reach their goals. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell in terms of how I won Muscle Beach. Again, it's not something that happened overnight. It's something that I worked on repeatedly for over 13 years. I did work with other athletes, learned, the posing and how to seem confident on stage. And then again, just how to moderate your body when you're getting ready to compete so that you don't mess it up last minute. And I've done that before too. Again, talking about the water, dehydrating myself too much and coming on stage too flat, overworking myself and coming in, skinnier than I needed to be because I just beat myself up, for 4 months, 6 months, and over dieted without really listening to my body. Those are things that you learn with time. And if anyone is interested in learning more, they could obviously message me. But I do want to plug that I have a book on Amazon as well. It's slightly outdated, but you could get a gist of the information on there. Hopefully I don't have too many spelling errors or little mishaps in there. I did do it rather quickly because I wanted to try to have some sort of book that I could give people where if I was to relearn all the information I've learned over the years about fitness and nutrition, how would I present that? One other thing I will say before I let you guys go is that mindset is everything. I typically tell people that you should have the intent of going into this journey to impress yourself, not anyone else. It's your own journey. No one else is going to live in your body. Why would you risk your health to impress other people? So if you're going to be doing a competition, again, be proud of your results, be proud of your progress, and take it as a learning experience. But don't beat yourself up. Don't tell yourself that you have to win or it's not worth it. My personal opinion is that life is a journey, and it's all about what you make out of it. I would like to end this video with a prayer. Again, I think it's just good to seek a higher purpose and to humble yourself. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom and the glory of God. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have ideas or topics you would like me to discuss, please feel free to leave them in the comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.